Alright, what is going on, guys? So, this is actually my very first tech review type of video that I'm going to be doing. Now, I do got like a couple of items that I'm going to be reviewing after this one. But the thing is, I just kind of want to like make these video reviews for fun, and also just to like share my experience with these items, because a lot of these like items that I'm reviewing are actually items that I've already put like enough time into. For example, I got this controller like years ago. I don't really remember what was like the exact date, but it was definitely, I mean, this controller is definitely a couple years old, and I've been using it on and off on my Xbox 360 and on my PC here or there. And yeah, I'm just gonna share my experience with it, just to like give you guys an idea of what my experience with this product was like. But anyways, since this is my very first like review video, I kind of don't know where to start. I guess I'll try to start about what got me into like this controller. Well, I remember just kind of searching around on Amazon.com, and then I saw like I've always wanted to try out like third-party controllers and stuff. And because back in the original Xbox days, or even 360 days, I've always been kind of like first party, and I never like tried out any like third party type of stuff, mainly because, I mean, as you guys can tell, with like the logo right here, this is a Mad Catz controller, and I'm sure everyone knows like Mad Catz is kind of like a punching bag in the gaming community. We always kind of make fun of like their products are pretty much like deformed versions of like the actual controllers. Like, man, I remember back in like the N64 days or PS1 days, I remember seeing all those like Mad Catz versions of those controllers. They always just looked unappealing, and they just kind of looked it cheap and all that stuff. But what encouraged me to buy this Mad Catz Xbox 360 controller was the pricing. It was like around $30 or lower. And like just kind of like looking at the controller itself, like it actually looks pretty, I guess it looks promising. It doesn't look very cheap or kind of like deformed and all. So I decided to give it a shot. It was only $30. And what's crazy with this controller is, hold up, it actually came with like a freaking box. And I thought it was going to come with like a generic, like like some sort of like generic controller case or something. But when I saw this box, I was like, oh god, is this like a premium controller? And what do you know, it actually is kind of like a premium controller, because you can transform this like Xbox 360 controller into like a PlayStation 3 controller, which is like what it shows right here. And then it kind of like explains like, what is it, oh, the weight cartridge. You can also like make this controller like even lighter than it needs to be. But I personally like weight on my controller, so I pretty much use that. And I'm not gonna like open this box case here, but there is like a, what do you call it, the little like these these little carrying bags for your controllers. So when I first like got this, I could tell like I got myself like a really good deal, because like I said, I thought this was like just I thought it would come in like a generic casing for this controller. But when it came with all of this stuff, I could tell like this controller must have been like it must have been probably like a $70 worthy controller. But what's crazy is I got it like under $30 new. This was like straight out of the factory. But yeah, I when I first got this controller, I absolutely felt like I was super lucky, because like I think this is like a very rare product nowadays. Like, I've actually tried to like go back to that one Amazon website that I ordered this controller, and it's not there anymore. And you just can't find this like controller anymore, like on eBay or any like other website that you can try to use to like find these kinds of items. And yeah, so I guess this is kind of like a collector's item for like third-party controllers, if anyone like actually collects them and all that stuff. But anyways, let's talk about like how the controllers feel from like a normal Xbox 360 controller. first, and I guess I'll talk about the good stuff. I absolutely love like the D-pad. I think the D-pad is just a huge improvement over like the original 360 controller, and like the one that they updated, the updated one. Like, I think everyone can agree, like the 360 controller, it was always like a fantastic controller, but the D-pad was never the greatest. It always kind of feels clunky. But these D-pads, man, like it feels very like intuitive, just feels very smooth. And when you put like your thumb on it, I feel like you could have you can have like a good idea of like which direction you're pressing on the D-pad when you're gaming and all that stuff. I've always loved it, like the thumbsticks. They feel pretty nice, and what is it? I guess they kind of feel more open in a way. Like, you know, when I go back, I mean, when I use this controller and go back to like the regular 360 controller, I do feel like, what is it? I don't have like as much freedom with the thumbstick movement, if that makes any sense here. And there's, what is it? The triggers are nice, buttons are pretty nice. Face buttons, you know, they pretty much behave and act like how you want them to be. And I guess like the one thing I never liked about this controller is like, look at the start and the back button. Like generally in like the standard 360 controller it should be like around there, but for some reason they decided to put it all the way up top, which is really awkward, and it takes some time to get used to. But yeah, you know, when I first got this controller, absolutely loved it. What is it? This is like a wired controller, and it's a very long wire. I'm like, it's like at least 10 feet tall. So, you know, if you're kind of worried about like this controller not like fitting, I mean not being like long enough, it's long enough for sure. All right, so what do I do now? I think that's pretty much like all. Oh yeah, let me talk about the positive stuff. So, like I said, I kind of love the overall build of this controller. It definitely feels nice. I definitely prefer like the weight cartridge here, and it just kind of feels like, you know, feels like a good how do you say it? I guess like a good reimagining of the Xbox 360 controller. Like it still kind of feels like a 360 controller, but at the same time, I mean, it totally like feels like a 360 controller, even though it's not like, you know, exactly a 360 controller because of like the D-pad. I mean, because of like the thumbsticks, the D-pads, even like how the bumpers and the buttons feel and all that stuff. But it just feels really nice, and yeah, you also get kind of like the additional stuff. Like you can modify this controller into a PS3 controller if you prefer that way. And I mean, what is it? I think this was like very like I have no idea like when this controller was like made, but this was like at a time. I think this was at a time before like scuff gaming came through, and basically pretty much like every pro controller or every like premium controller nowadays generally has like some buttons on the back or like the paddles on the back. So there's no like, you know, cool stuff like that with this controller. But still though, you know, for $30, I think this controller was pretty awesome for what I got, you know, and also, you know, getting the little extra bag is pretty cool too. Okay, so, you know, since I've used this like on and off for years, have I noticed any like deterioration or any like, you know, decrease in quality? And the answer is yes, I definitely noticed that. I don't know if you guys can like tell like the sticks here. I mean, when I first like got this controller here, it used to have like way more resistance, but I just kind of wanted to say like I've been using this controller like a decent amount of time, so you know the sticks are a bit more loose. And one noticeable thing that I kind of realized the more I play is, I don't know if I could really like show it right here, but oh crap, hold up. Do you notice like there's kind of like a loud noise when I kind of like tap this grip here, but on this side there's like absolutely nothing. See, absolutely nothing. Basically this side of like the controller, like this little grip here, it's kind of like falling apart. I mean, it's not like so bad where I feel like I have to duct tape it, but I do notice it like it is kind of like getting a bit loose, like the more I play with this controller. And I think the biggest problem with this controller comes from like the right thumbstick here. Okay, this is gonna be really awkward because This is the first time I'm doing this here. Basically, the thumbsticks work fine here, but if I kind of like, yeah, if I kind of like hold the thumbstick like that, and if I hold it like too long, I actually kind of like lose my sensitivity. Like in Halo, for example, in Halo, I pretty much play on 6 sensitivity, and I should be able to like turn pretty fast, but if I kind of like, do like this, my sensitivity feels like it's at 3. Like, it's pretty annoying, and for some reason, like, what is it, in Halo, like, I could notice that type of, like, sensitivity change, but in, like, other games, I kind of don't notice it. I mean, I still kind of, like, notice it, but in Halo, like, it's just so noticeable for some weird reason. But yeah, that was kind of like the sense of deterioration that I've noticed throughout the years while using this controller. And I'm not gonna lie, oh crap, why is the quality like so crap here? Oh, sorry. And like I said, I'm not gonna lie, it absolutely sucks that, like, I really think this, like, everything about this controller, it's pretty much perfect, but just other than like these 2 problems that kind of like occurred, after like using it a decent amount of times. It kind of sucks to see this controller kind of like fall into that issue. But with that said, like, it still is like a very playable controller. Like, what is it? I think like the PC Doom videos that I've been live streaming, like, I've been using this controller while playing that game, and this controller is really good for like, playing like Doom. Not just like, what is it, classic Doom, even like Doom 2016. Like, it's a great controller for, those kinds of games. And yeah, this is pretty much like my PC, like, gaming controller if I ever want to, like, game with the controller. And what's crazy, oh yeah, that's like another like advantage that this controller has, because keep in mind, this was released back in the 360 days, and back in the 360 days when you bought like a wired 360 controller, you couldn't tell if it was compatible on the PC. I think on this box, like, they don't even tell you if it's compatible. Like, I literally just tested it, and then I found out this controller was compatible on the PC. So that's really awesome, because nowadays when you buy like a wired Xbox One controller, it's most likely going to work on your PC. So yeah, I guess, that's one like other good thing I could say about this controller. But I guess to wrap things up, do I recommend this controller? I'm going to say like yes, as long as you could find it like a reasonable price like I did. Like I spent this around 30 bucks or less. Like, it was totally worth the money, even though, this part of like the thumbstick, it's a little bit defected. And I just want to say, like, when I just kind of like tap it, I actually move at like full speed, but if I hold it for like too long, I lose that speed for some weird reason. Like, it's really stupid. But like I said, for 30 bucks, I'm not too upset about it, because like I said, this controller, it really feels like it was supposed to be like a $70 controller or something. But the fact that I got it for 30 bucks, I think I lucked out pretty well. But then again, I did say this controller is mad rare nowadays, so I don't really think like, there's any point of getting like this kind of this Mad Catz Pro controller nowadays. I think like if you want like an Xbox 360 controller that can work on your 360 and your PC, I think you got to go with like the Rock Candy controller, because I know like those are much easier to find, and they should be like very affordable, and they pretty much like function the same as this controller. Like, they pretty much have like a D-pad, even though the D-pad is more basically the Rock Candy 360 controller. It's pretty much like a knockoff of the 360 controller, but it can also like work on the PC too. So I feel like, it's better to go for that option than try to like look for, this type of controller, because I think like, since this controller is so rare nowadays, I think a lot of like the people that are selling it, they're gonna really like charge up the price. And like I said, if you have to pay like 70 or 80 bucks for this controller, it's totally not worth it. And yeah, I think that's really all I gotta say about this controller. I like it. I definitely thought it was worth it for like, for like the less than 30 bucks that I spent. I like using it for my 360. I still play my 360 whenever I feel like it, and this is pretty much my main like PC gaming controller. Whenever like I'm in the mood for like, playing PC games with with a gamepad. And yeah, thank you for watching this, I guess like my first tech review or whatever. I will be like doing more of this, in the future. I got a lot of stuff to like review because I've definitely been using like a lot of gaming accessories throughout the years, and I kind of want to like, just share my experience with them. So yeah, thank you for watching.